So, you want to be a project manager? Well, this video gives you an introduction to Waterfall, the daddy of project management methodologies. In this video, I'll outline where it has come from, how it works, challenges that you're likely to encounter, and when to use it. Waterfall, aka traditional project management, formally originated in the early 20th century out of the construction and manufacturing industries. This was as a result of needing to manage resources effectively in temporary organisations on a scale which had not been seen since antiquity. Prior to the First World War, the largest organisations were a nation's armed forces and the Catholic Church. With the creation of national projects like the Hoover Dam in the 1930s, or later on the Apollo programme, this methodology flourished. Unsurprisingly, due to the scale and success achieved with these projects, it is still heavily in use today. Waterfall can be characterised as a document-driven approach, structured into phases with gates at the end of each, where senior stakeholders review progress against agreed plans. If they are happy with progress to date, they approve any additional resources required, enabling the project to progress to the next phase. If the progress is not satisfactory, the sponsor can stop or even cancel the project at this point. This periodic cycle of reviewing progress against agreed plans is central to this approach. The reasons for the moniker Waterfall is that for each phase, work is broken down into deliverables or work packages. For each work package, there are a number of tasks which are arranged in order of dependencies. For example, you need to create the foundations of a building prior to erecting walls. This logical order is referred to as the critical path, which can be arranged graphically to look like water flowing downwards, hence the name. So how does it work? To explore how Waterfall project is run, we'll use the PMI process groups. They include the initiation processes, the planning, execution, closing, and monitoring and controlling processes. Starting with the initiation processes, in the context of running a business sponsor identifies a problem or opportunity for a new product or service and brings it to the attention of senior management. The intent at this stage is to justify expelling further effort by assigning resources to plan out the project. Depending on the organisation and its maturity of running projects, as well as the perceived scale and complexity of the proposed initiative, a programme, project manager and/or a whole team of subject matter experts may be assigned to work with the sponsor to capture the necessary detail in the form of a project brief. This document provides the necessary information to allow management to make a decision on whether or not to proceed with this concept. The type of information captured in the brief will include the current problem or business opportunity and its relationship to the strategic plan of the business, the vision of this new product or service. This outlines the desired end state to be realised, the project objective and goals, quantifiable targets which will determine if success has been achieved, and the business case, which shows estimated costs and financial benefits of executing the project. Once captured and approved, the project transitions to the planning stage. At this stage, additional resources with specialised knowledge to aid the development of the project plan may be mobilised. The objective of this phase is to take the project brief and, through a process of progressive elaboration, refine the detail of each deliverable and define a plan in order to realise them. This is then captured in the project plan and includes the scope, which is comprised of a work breakdown structure, WBS, list of deliverables and a scope statement, a RAID log, including identified risks, dependencies, assumptions and actions in which to test these, a list of tasks associated to each deliverable in the WBS. For information regarding WBSs, see the scoping video, the link to which is in the description of this video, resource requirements and effort estimates associated to each task, informing the creation of a project schedule, estimates of the project budget, including personnel, hardware, software, and supplier costs, as well as a risk contingency budget, as well as capturing the procurement strategy for any additional goods or services, documenting a quality management plan, and documenting how the program or project will be governed, including status meetings, governance cadence, and the change management plan. If you haven't already realised, this is a lot of documentation, which is likely to require multiple meetings and workshops in order to capture the necessary detail prior to getting the relevant stakeholders to agree to propose plans. Oh, and I forgot to mention, you'll need to update the business case and the benefits statement along with any other key information obtained from the project brief. Once this document is agreed, it is presented to the relevant stakeholders, who then authorise the requested budget and resources, or request that the project plan is amended based on new criteria, be it related to scope, cost, or time constraints. The project team will have to go away and replan the project prior to representing. This can also be the case for business-to-business projects, where organisations outline project plans as part of a bid response and a commercial offer, which moves us on to the execution phase. Once approved, the project progresses to this phase, where, if necessary, further resources are mobilised and/or procured in order to carry out the agreed plans. Those with a keen eye will have noticed that traversing over this phase and the others is the monitoring and controlling process groups. This is because a good project manager will be continuously communicating, be it via formal meetings and status updates, or informal one-to-ones, text messages and emails. These communications will be targeted at senior stakeholders, including the sponsor, in order to manage expectations around progress made to date and next steps, and the project team, ensuring that members are aligned and have clear expectations as to what it is that they need to do and ensure that they are delivering without any issues, either ahead of schedule or to agreed timescales. Also, within this set of processes is that of problem management. This essentially involves resolving any issues and/or blockers that may be or are impacting the team and the progress of the project, along with managing any change requests in line with the change management plan, which, depending on the scale of a change request, can involve replanning an element of or the entire project, which means updating that large document, the project plan, once again. This cycle of activities within the execution phase continues until either the project is completed or a change request deemed necessary to complete the project makes the original business case uneconomical and the project is cancelled. Which leads us to the closing processes. Depending on how the project arrives at this phase will determine the level of work conducted at this stage. If entering this phase post a successful execution phase, the deliverables will need to be handed over to the new owners. For example, if delivering a new IT system, this could be the customer's IT department, who will provide support for the application, and a business owner, who will be responsible for decisions regarding the system's lifecycle. The project team will conduct a lessons learned, reviewing the successes and failures of the project, and make recommendations on what they would do differently if they were to run the project again. The project manager will also need to review and get approval to close the project accounts. This involves making sure that the assigned budget has been allocated to the correct cost items, vendors and suppliers are paid, and that the budget balances, as well as assessing that the goals have been achieved and benefits realised. If not, you'll have to explain why. This is all compiled into a closing report and presented to the sponsor and potentially senior management as well. Oh, and let's not forget, actually, celebrating the success of a job well done by the project team. What I've outlined implies that using a waterfall approach is designed for one contiguous project. However, you can use this approach to break it down into a set of smaller overlapping projects. A research project, followed by a design project, then a development project, into a deployment project. In this approach, each project could have different team members making recommendations, handing over the deliverables, and capturing lessons learned at the end of each smaller project. Up to this point, I have depicted a high-level generic example of how a waterfall project is conducted, though in reality a number of factors will determine how the project is run. So what are these? The generic challenges of any project include the organisational environment. If an organisation is running its first project, it's unlikely to have the relevant experience within its management team or that of the sponsor in understanding what is required from them to steer a project. Though, if a project organisation, with a dedicated function overseeing documentation and adherence to governance processes, then this greatly affects the likelihood of a successful project delivery. Another factor is the level of experience of the project manager and the team delivering it. This could be their first or 50th project. Knowledge and experience of prior successes and failures will impact the approach and decision-making process of those involved. Challenges that are more specific to waterfall are that it's sometimes perceived as a rigid process. Because planning is conducted up front, prior to developing and/or deploying a solution, it limits the ability of the project team to manage changing requirements. Hence, if a client changes their mind near the end of the execution phase, it can require the team to go back to the design and planning phase, which can either be uneconomical or result in significant delays. This is one of the main criticisms of using Waterfall to run a software development project. The other main criticism is that it's document driven. There is a lot of project documentation in Waterfall which also has to be created and then maintained. Experienced PMs will know how and when to challenge if a document is not adding value to the project team, customer, or parent organization. So, when should you use it? Because Waterfall is a structured, document-driven methodology, it is best suited to deployment projects and projects with contractual payment terms linked to fixed delivery dates. A good example of this is building a property. Research and development of how to build a house, along with the materials being used, are tested and approved prior to being considered in any commercial plans, so you don't have to factor this in. At the planning phase, an architect creates the detailed design, builders confirm resource and time estimates, and suppliers agree prices and delivery dates, creating the project schedule. Once agreed and accepted by the client, you can then start by breaking ground. Essentially, the builder is then configuring known materials, concrete and bricks, and pre-assembled components such as windows and doors to realise those plans, all of which has to be done in a logical order. Changes can be introduced to the plans either via the client wanting larger windows, the inclusion of a skylight or underfloor heating, or external factors such as currency fluctuations, causing materials sourced from overseas to increase or decrease in cost. All of this is not being included in the original plans and will result in greater costs and delays to the original schedule. As long as the client can afford and is willing to accept these changes, then they can be easily managed into the plan. So there you have it. I hope that you now have a better understanding of Waterfall and when to use it. If you have any questions, comments, or requests for future content, please feel free to use the comment section below. If you found this video useful, please hit the like and subscribe buttons. Until next time, take care.